to make it through the hour without any additional problems, but no guarantees. So I apologize to whoever might be watching in advance. We were beginning to talk before the show started about assuming, of course, that Joe Biden is the president-elect and will become president in 3 weeks. 3 weeks? No, 6 weeks. Whatever.
6 weeks, about
Yeah.
6 weeks.
We were starting to talk about what we thought might be Biden's most immediate challenges and priorities. One of the things that I had thrown out was the idea that when Trump, either himself or by getting surrogates to do it for him, assassinated the chief of the Iranian nuclear program. And what is Iran going to do in revenge? Like, they, for domestic reasons, cannot let this go unchallenged. And when and what are the issues? Because whatever they do, Biden's going to be sitting in his first day with potentially a war. And Omanon and Paul had some comments on that.
Well, what I was saying is that that is just one of the foreign policy quagmires we will be in, because foreign policy has been in a way in shambles for some time now. And so this one will become an immediate problem because of the need by Iranian politicians to create a sense of self-identity, self-worth. And in that sense, they are going to launch something, and I don't know what, but the only thing I think they have in their hands is subterfuge of the US vessels, or by proxy do something in Lebanon or Israel. And so those things are going to, those have a potential to draw Trump in or Biden in. And I don't know what the solution is. But I know that Biden has chosen an experienced globalist. I'm sure the globalist, I think, Mikan, no, not Mikan, I forgot what his name is, as the Secretary of State, or Foreign Policy Czar, I forgot what the title is, and he is a globalist. I'm wondering what kind of back channel diplomacy is happening right now, which we are not aware of, to avoid this kind of a situation. That's all. That's what I'm thinking.
Well, in response, it appears to me that since Biden, I think, wants to get back into the original nuclear deal, that the price that he will have to pay in order to get back into it might be much higher than it would have been 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago, Iran was in serious economic trouble. They would probably love to go back to the way things were before Trump came into office, and that might have been the cheapest way around the problem. Now they're forced to come up with something that America must pay. My guess is that will be a piece of it. I'm sure there's going to be more, but that will be a piece of the negotiation.
I think even before the assassination of the nuclear scientist, the stakes were very high or the bar was raised for United States to get back in, because the Iranians have been working with the nuclear fuel processing, and they are ahead at a certain entirely different place than what the nuclear treaty wanted them to be. So I
Right.
don't know what, for example, all the negotiation that Kerry did, he would understand and he would know what the benchmarks were and how can they push them back now. And I don't know whether there was a solution for easy solution for Biden to get back in, other than paying a heavy price. And as you said, after the assassination of nuclear scientists, the bar has been raised much higher. So it's going to become, United States will have to pay much higher price, and I don't know what that would be, unless the see how complicated it has become, because we have ditched the European allies, so they have no sympathy with what we have done. So I don't know whether they will come to the rescue of United States during the negotiation. I don't know that.
The other thing is that there's no guarantee if we do renegotiate, it won't be gone in another 4 years.
Yes, that's another problem.
And you know, whether it's Trump or a different Republican, it may be gone in 4 years. So there's no permanency. We have to make it so that we can't back out. It can't be at the whim of the president.
The way you do that is make it a treaty. In other words, Congress approves it as a treaty, which complicates, doesn't prevent, as we've seen with the Open Skies Treaty, but it complicates how you withdraw and under what conditions you withdraw.
But at the same,
that's the best we can hope for.
I mean, right now, yeah. Oh, go ahead.
I think the other thing was that I was trying to point out, at least to Bob on the phone, was I think Trump wants. My guess is that Trump wants to start a war, and thereby saying we're in a war and you can't change presidents in the middle of a war. And
but is there a constitutional? I don't remember if there is anything in Constitution that will allow the president to continue as a president, although he has been defeated in the elections, even though there's an emergency, or they could declare an emergency. Well, that's a different thing.
So I think that, you know, that may be on the back of his mind. Who knows what's on his mind? He certainly, from my observations over the last several years, I don't think he thinks clearly on anything. But that's just me. He'll say anything, he'll do anything just simply to benefit himself, and he doesn't care about anything else. And that brings me to why he's doing all of this fighting the election results. He's sending all these lawyers to court to present cases, and they have no cases to present. They've lost, 36 out of 37 cases, and because they don't have any evidence, at least no overwhelming evidence. His campaign is funding these lawyers, and the lawyers don't, you know, lawyers are high paid, but they're not that high paid. He's getting hundreds of millions of dollars in campaign contributions, and at the end, on
It's
January
$170 million.
Keep all that money. It's not being funded for the Republican Party. It's being funded to him. So he gets to keep that money when he's out of office.
Does that mean?
I think that's another motivation that he's doing all of this stuff.
Does that mean he can use it for personal use, or he can use it for another campaign?
Money. No. his money. When you're out of office, they keep the money.
No, but it came as a donation for a campaign, right?
And when he's no longer in office, he keeps it.
But
he
even though,
it applies to every politician.
I see. Okay. Wow, that's interesting. I thought that because he's asking for, well, this is what I was thinking, that because he's asking for a campaign, because he might continue the campaign for the next 4 years and have a front seat in the Republican lineup to get back in, actually.
That may be true too, but
he'll ask for more money when that happens.
Yeah,
it appears, and we'll know more in a couple of months, that the many millions of dollars that went into the inauguration, and nobody can figure out what happened to it. The accountants have lost many millions of dollars, may well have gone into Trump's pocket.
Wow, I mean, that's it. And how can accountants lose the money?
Well, one way they can lose the money.
Bob is out. Oh, Bob is back on.
Okay. Well, one way.
Was I the only one who got knocked off?
Yes. You are I think in a wrong place in your internet
I'm here.
bubble.
Is Paul here?
Paul is here.
I am here.
You were out.
There you are. Back again.
Apologies to the audience. Adventures in technology.
So
may this be the last of them. I'm sorry, you were saying, Paul.
What I was saying was every politician gets to keep their campaign chest once they're out of office.
Paul?
Yeah, that's just a normal thing.
Wow, okay. So they can use it for anything.
Typically, they're not, they spend most of the money for the campaign, and the war chests aren't that big. But on some people, the war chests are big. And Trump is continuing his war chest in these last few days.
And people are paying. People are paying. People are paying.
Yeah. I think, and one of the reasons is he owes so much money to all kinds of things that, he's going to have a very difficult time trying to make those payments.
Well, he's going to write a few books and recover all the money. I mean, if you have 70 million followers, he is guaranteed at least $70 million.
You're saying $1 a book?
Yes, that's what I'm saying. At least a minimum. If you sold for $1 a book, $70 million. Yeah.
Well, I mean, just one of his debts is $400 million.
Oh,
that's
wow.
That's due in 4 years.
So what was that loan for?
For some construction project.
Well, that means that construction project probably will pay that out. Wouldn't that do that?
But they're not making profits.
Oh.
And his new construction projects are simply, he doesn't do the construction. He just simply lends his name to the building.
Oh, okay. So that means that's a win-win situation. Get the money, let the money come in just on the brand.
Yes, that's what they're doing now.
I don't think that will translate into $400 million, particularly the way he spends money on himself. And the taxpayer is no longer going to be providing him with a lifestyle that he's enjoyed up to this point.
But he was not drawing any salary, actually, right?
No.
I think that he's he's done very well because of him.
I don't know, Bob. You're not. We've lost your audio. Can you hear us? I can't hear anybody.
I think Bob is out. Bob is out. I think he is actually farther away from his router. That's what I think. That's why he's not connected. He's out again. Whoops. But hi.
Hey guys.
Did you push Bob
No,
out?
I didn't know. I did not. He's not even in the meeting right now. Let me keep an eye on it. See if he comes back.
I think he's sitting a little farther away from the router. I think, or he accidentally cut himself out. But
he needs to go to the email and log back in.
Okay. Maybe you need to call him actually. Maybe. So in the meantime, you can think of multiple ways new Biden administration could be in trouble right from day zero. And but at the moment, do you think that Trump can stay around, even if what I was wondering is if Trump's just one case is taken up by the Supreme Court, can Trump still stick around past January 20?
He's hoping to go to the Supreme Court, but nothing seems to be going that far.
But that's what I'm asking, that because he has 37 or so many cases and most of them are lost, even one case, if one case keeps bubbling up and goes to the Supreme Court, and then what happens?
Then if the Supreme Court decides to take it up, then they can take it up. But it has to be a case that's viewed to be precedent-setting type of.
So that means it has to come up through the lower courts first, then.
Yes. What you do is you appeal through the lower courts. Mm-hmm. You get kicked out of the first one, kicked out of the second one,
Here comes Bob.
One of the things he's trying to do is to bypass all the lower courts and just go as high as he can. And therefore, when he gets kicked out of that one, he can go to the Supreme. But so far, he's getting kicked out of the lower courts. And, I guess the lawyers that are presenting these lawsuits without any evidence are in danger of having their licenses pulled.
Because can that happen?
Yes, it can, and probably a lot of them should be happening. And they're getting strong words from the judges about you should not have come in here without evidence. A lawsuit has to have evidence on both sides, and you came in without any evidence at all, just making a statement. So what they're saying is that you don't even have a case, so you can't appeal you can't appeal this to a higher court because you don't have anything to appeal. There's nothing substantive to appeal.
So does that mean the lawyers are not doing a good job, or there is no good evidence?
There's no evidence.
There's no evidence. But if you
what they're trying to show is that the election was so full of wrongdoing that Trump was cheated.
Yes.
And they come in by just saying that. They don't have any any proof of anything.
Well, lately I heard that in Michigan they were zeroing in on the poll workers who were, they alleged that they were pushing the ballots 100 times, making the machine read them 100 times over, again and again, without resetting the machine, without zeroing the machine. I can't understand what that means actually. And they keep on saying that, and they say we observed it in my machine, but one of the persons was saying I was observing two machines, and if they had a problem I would walk up to them and tell them what to do. But I saw other machines, I observed other people were not following those rules because I was not doing it. It's kind of interesting testimony.
Right. But did they have that person in court?
No, this was in a Senate, no, not Senate, Michigan House hearing. What?
In order to go to court, you have to take that person who will then go to court, put his hand on a Bible, swear he's going to tell the truth, and then say this is what happened, and here's the evidence to show. They showed 10,000 ballots being cast, but they only had a pile of paper of 35 papers, or something like that. They have to show the evidence. So, and they're not showing any evidence.
But at the same time, what I'm wondering is when you watch people say this thing and then you read the comments, what all people are writing, not all, a lot of people are writing, yes, the election was stolen, or this is all fraud, everybody was in it. Now that's what is interesting, how people have been convinced that yes, every poll worker was essentially a Democrat spy, and even the ballots were Democrat spies. So I'm kind of wondering, what kind of conspiracy are we looking at? Is that really true? That means the whole country balloting system, poll workers, ballot workers, machines, everybody was out to get just Trump, not the Republican senators who won at the same time on the same ballot. How can that disparity come up? If you are on the same ballot, doesn't that mean the ballot is valid for both? That's what I don't understand.
Theoretically, it could be done so that only Trump is hurt. From a practical point of view, it makes no sense, because if they could have won a couple of the Senate races at the same time, their life would have been in much better shape. The big problem with this whole concept of the machine changing the votes is in Georgia, they hand counted every vote. And the result was the machine was right.
Oh, okay.
So how can it be right in Georgia, where they're accusing the machine of doing all these horrible things, but it's absolutely wrong in some other state?
Well, Pennsylvania,
I think it's the other way around. I think Utah went for Biden. I think was the machine was switching votes the other way.
Oh, I see. Oh, I see. That's your theory.
Yeah.
What about Michigan? Michigan, they are saying that votes were switched, and actually,
I'm sorry. Say again.
They are saying that votes were switched in Michigan, and they are also actually one of the press conferences I saw that one of the billboards Trump was showing that normal level of voting, suddenly a huge bump, all for Biden. Several precincts and several states were showing that. And how can that be? That happened at 8:43 a.m. or 8:46 or 11:56 a.m., something like that, or middle of the night, p.m. It's kind of interesting. And is that true,
Well, it's
or is it just?
clear.
That's a function of reporting.
I see. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. I mean that one would think that, but why would that
Well,
be
the other,
accepted as a? How would that be accepted as a fraud?
Here's the thing. If you look at all of the votes for president, you know, all the votes that Biden got, all the votes that Trump got, those are that would be the total of the ballots that were cast.
Yes.
And those totals should also be reflected on the senators that were running
Yes.
and the other people that
Yes.
were running.
Yeah.
And you know what they're saying is in Michigan there's an extra 150,000 votes for Biden over Trump, but the other races don't show anything different.
Yes.
So in order for that to happen, somebody would have to have gone in and changed the ballots of switched Trump to Biden 150,000 times. You know, that would have had to happen 150,000 times.
or another explanation is that there was, I don't know, 10, 12 million Republicans who hated Trump but liked the rest of the party. Is that a possibility?
It's a high probability. You see them on television all the time.
Yeah.
Okay, let's. I think we've beaten that one to death. There are some things that are bothering me, and I guess the first one is about the KC-135s. What's that thing? What's that treaty that the flyover?
Open skies.
Open
It's
skies
a treaty between Russia, Europe, Asia, that basically said with very short notice, a plane could fly over a military or other installation to confirm that nothing untoward is going on. And America had 2 planes that they used for this purpose. And Trump, in the summer, said he's going to back out of the treaty, and it ended a few days ago. And when it ended, Trump directed that the planes that were used for this particular purpose be dismantled. Possibly because he's trying to save a couple of pennies, or possibly he's trying to make sure that Biden cannot go back into the treaty because he won't have the facilities necessary to do it. There's a lot of that going on, which we can talk about in a few minutes.
But isn't it an important thing to have that kind of a facility to keep an eye on what is going on?
Yeah, it's important to have that facility, but it's also just as important to not dismantle a plane. There's a place in Arizona that's got, I think it's like hundreds of planes that have been taken out of service, but they haven't been completely dismantled.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, they haven't been destroyed. So he's willfully destroying government property by doing that.
So
the same thing he was doing with the post office.
But what is the
Just like the
incentive
post
there?
office, yeah.
But what is the incentive in destroying? I mean, there's one thing is you back out of a treaty. The second thing is destroying your own property. Why?
So that the next president, in this case Biden, cannot opt back in.
Oh, but we
You
still
could
have
use that
satellites.
same.
But we still have satellites
Well,
that
I
can
guess
keep an eye on it.
satellites are not as effective.
I see.
I don't know. That was a question I had when I first heard about this, and I really don't have an answer.
So Paul may have an answer to that.
answer to what? I did.
What I was thinking is, don't we have satellites that fly over?
Yeah,
Anyway?
we do.
So doesn't that mean we already know that what is happening? Or the planes go in to make a confirmation?
We could have the cameras on those satellites are extraordinary.
I see. Okay. So
Yeah.
that means the planes go in and make a confirmation of what is happening real time.
The planes. I doubt that the planes go over somebody else's land.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, they do. That's the whole point of it. Not only do they go over land, but they go over a military base.
I see. So they can closely see what is happening.
So, for example, a Russian plane might go over Fort Bragg.
They probably should have, tell them ahead of time that they're going to do it. Otherwise, they're in danger of getting shot down.
That's what open treaties, open skies is about. That's the deal. I give you a call and I say, tomorrow morning, one of my planes is flying over whatever.
Yeah.
And so don't shoot it down. It's part of open skies. And the other country is required as part of the treaty to let it go.
Yeah. Okay.
I see.
And the whole point is to make sure that somebody isn't, for example, massing on the Lithuanian border troops so that suddenly they attack and take over Lithuania before anybody is aware of it.
So isn't that a good thing to keep an eye on those kind of things? Because we did not really care about Crimea. We did not care about what was happening in Ukraine. I mean, all those things we need to know, I guess, if we want to see. The problem with the world right now is we do want to make sure our borders are safe, but at the same time, in order to have our borders safe, you do need to keep an eye on distant lands where we could be drawn in and create trouble for everybody.
Yeah, it's the trust but verify.
Yes, that is what is important.
Yeah. Okay.
So we're getting rid of verification, and since we don't trust anybody, and at this point, I don't think anybody trusts us, we are now sitting in the potential for chaos. But that's just one of the things that's going on. Another one that's potentially scarier is that Trump has reorganized the Pentagon in the last few weeks. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that he's done is he's put special forces, the Green Berets, the SEAL Team 6, etc., instead of being up through the chain of command through the Joint Chiefs, is now reporting directly to a civilian who's kind of a nut job. And what scares me is there doesn't seem to be any good reason for it unless Trump wants the special forces to do something in the next couple of weeks. And they don't want the Joint Chiefs to get in the way.
So does that mean a lot of ulterior motives are involved then in that case, if really that is happening?
Well, we know it's happening. The reasons why, we can guess. It might have something to do with Iran and that war we were talking about at the beginning of the show.
So, but you still need, you don't.
I don't know, but
you can't wage a war just based on a few special forces.
Let's example. I'm not saying this is going to happen, but let's say, just for the heck of it, that we want to make sure there's going to be a war with Iran, and we want it to happen now. we tried assassinating a chief scientist and nothing's happened. Maybe
something
we
will
assassinate
soon.
somebody else. Huh?
Yeah. I think something will soon happen.
Okay.
Either Iran will retaliate, which of course, they don't know whether it was us or Israel,
And they
and
probably
it's
don't care.
much more logical that they retaliated against Israel, and Israel will retaliate against, Iran, saying that they weren't the ones that did it. Why are you bombing us? And that's how wars start.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, that's exactly how World War I started.
Yes, but at the same time, how would the special forces be involved then? You mean special forces can go in and cause havoc on uh, targeted havoc?
Mhm. Yeah. I don't know how they would be used, but I know how they could be used. And by taking them out from the chain of command, you avoid some of the protections built into the system. Some radical guy, let's say he's a captain with 100 guys underneath him, goes off and does something which puts us into deep, deep trouble as a nation. And when now that group, whatever it is, responds, and now we as a nation are in the situation of, hey, this wasn't our idea, we're sorry, but you can't go out killing a president, for example.
Yeah.
But isn't that what CIA actually is supposed to be doing? That's what they did in South America. That's what they did in other places. That was
Right.
CIA war.
And maybe the problem is it was a CIA war, and they don't have the capability of doing anything as big as special forces can do now. I don't know. I'm throwing it out because possibilities are scary.
I mean, you have Bay of Pigs under Kennedy, and that was
Right.
through CIA, not through the military. I thought, but I could be
right.
wrong.
There was a certain amount of deniability there, and we our punishment was to look like utter incompetent fools, and maybe Castro was happy to leave it at that. I don't know that Iran would be happy to leave something similar, or maybe it's, I don't know, pick something. Maybe Trump wants to start a war with China.
That's kind of too far away, though.
You could have some special forces go attack some of those islands.
That's the island. That island problem, probably that is a possibility. Yes, but that's going to draw in. That's going to draw in Taiwan, in fact, and that's going to draw in all the Pacific countries. But that might be a little far-fetched. I think Middle East is a better place to start the war because there are alliances already in place. And
okay, that's
The other thing, are we stopped or okay?
No.
The other thing is that it's not only happening with the special forces, but it's also happening in the financial world. Mnuchin was in front of the House of Representatives a couple of days ago, and maybe it was yesterday. He wants to take $400 billion out of the small business loan law that was passed by COVID for COVID relief, and transfer it back to the Fed, thereby lessening our national debt to the Fed. The Fed hasn't given us the money yet because they don't give it to us until we actually use it. But the law says that money is available until 2026.
Yeah, I also don't understand why that move is being negotiated. I can't understand that. Returning the funds.
Reduce the national debt.
No, but it's supposed to be for relief. But it's supposed to be for relief rather than reducing national debt. That's what I don't understand. Where did we lose some of this stuff?
Because they're repurposing it.
The current administration doesn't care one iota about people. They only care about money in the stock market. And so, if they did care, they would have passed another relief bill. There's been one sitting on Mitch McConnell's desk for 5 months now, and from 3 trillion, he's talking about 500 billion, and nothing for the people who are out of work and are about to get evicted.
I mean, that's what we need, actually. All the small businesses that are hurting, all the frontline workers who need support, who are being evicted from their houses, they need support rather than giving the money back to the feds. That's why I can't understand is that just the motive to reduce the debt, which is very minuscule amount or in the overall scheme of things.
Number one, you're right, it's a small amount. And number two, they're not going to stick it back in the treasury and not spend it. They're going to repurpose it for other purposes.
I see.
Maybe better, maybe not. The Federal Reserve
campaign.
Finance the wall is a possibility. He's got 6 weeks to build a whole bunch of miles. Obviously there are a bunch of things going on. Another thing that he's done, it's not clear whether it's legal or not, but he's done it anyway, is he's changing the upper levels of the civil service from being protected by civil service law to being unprotected, which means theoretically, he could fire all of the upper and middle level management of every department, leaving all of the departments, whether it be Health and Human Services, Commerce, Homeland Security, whatever, without any direction, without any chain of command.
So does that mean Fauci also could be in danger then?
Theoretically, yes.
Wow.
Although I don't think Fauci cares one way or another. He's got a job in the new administration.
Yes, but
so
it's a symbolic loss, essentially.
Yes.
And I don't know. I mean, don't the Republicans want a continuity somehow, rather than have a political head who has no clue about what is the reality of any of those branches?
I didn't hear your comment.
No, what I was saying is, don't all the Republicans know that the bureaucracy needs somebody who is in the know of what is happening in that particular department at the top? So you remove the top, that means
some Republicans.
Oh.
What I was saying was there's some Republicans who want government to be downsized and to get out of society.
Okay.
And if you can do that by hamstringing it, great. That's one of the reasons why many Republicans don't like taxation, because taxes go to bigger government. Of course, bigger government means it can do its job, but it's not necessarily the job that some of these Republicans want done. For example, the EPA. They want the EPA to stop bothering business, particularly big business, with insisting that things be clean and things be safe.
I mean, the same thing with the
You've
FDA.
seen that in FDA, yeah.
I mean,
if it wasn't for the FDA, we would have had a vaccine and treatments for COVID back in March, because somebody would have gone and said, I have this thing,
yes.
and then they would go off and start marketing it, and maybe it would work, and maybe it wouldn't.
Or kill people.
Yeah, well, what the heck? They were going to die anyway eventually.
Okay.
It's just old people, so don't worry about it.
Don't worry about it. I mean, I have heard that argument that why do you care? It's only certain older people who are catching it, and the mortality rate is greater in that group. So it is good idea to recycle the space. It's kind of interesting argument that way.
As somebody in my mid 70s, I don't appreciate that goal.
Yeah, I know, but this is an interesting topic to think about when you are talking about these old farts. And so, but there are people who think that way.
But if you worry about old people, if you worry about any group of people, that's just socialism. So socialism is the same as communism, and you're un-American.
I mean, it's interesting how the conversation immediately switches from government subsidies to socialism, immediately to communism, and then it switches to just, do you know what communists do? They close down churches and they prevent you from worshiping. So naturally they are going to tell you what to eat, how to sleep, how to get up, and you don't want any of that. So it's kind of interesting argument, and of course we all don't like that. So naturally you need to vote against it. Yeah. Only thing is you got to put a label on somebody who is of that ilk, and that's most of the people who are calling themselves Democrats. And by the way, I don't want to say that now. Okay, that's it.
All right. One other thing that we should talk about before we're done, and which is definitely a stated priority of Biden, is how are we going to deal with COVID? It appears we have multiple vaccines, and you have to give some credit to Trump for that.
Yes, of course.
But he's basically said, I will get the vaccines to the states using the Army, and it'll be wonderful. But he has not figured out, or has stopped worrying about things once it got to the states. And until the vaccines get into people's arms, they're nothing more than paperweights, very expensive paperweights. So Biden is planning, I hope, to figure out how the hell he's going to get people inoculated, and how he's going to keep them alive until they are inoculated.
I mean, that's a tall order, actually, because the vaccines, the ones that we have right now, they need high class refrigeration. and you have to have refrigeration at the point of care, and then that also, not only that, you need a constant supply of vaccines for more than 200 million people within a short period of time, and that's not an easy task. And so good luck to Biden. And
Yeah.
I hope the General Parna, I guess, is in charge. He knows what he's doing,
Why do you say 200 million?
because there is a, you need at least 600, you need at least 60% of the population inoculated to claim some kind of ability to have herd immunity. So you need at least that many people to have been immunized and have the immunity built up. That part we have no clue at the moment, because we don't have long-term data about the vaccines to show that the immunity will last for a year. We don't know that. You might get vaccinated, and does it last for a year? And number two, when you get the vaccine, does it prevent you from getting infected? Or does it only prevent you from getting severe symptoms? So there is some indication in Moderna vaccine, although all the data are not out, there are some indications in Moderna vaccine that might prevent infections, but it's not very clear yet. So vaccines are there and we need them, but we don't have that long-term data to really show that, well, maybe you got it this time, maybe you need it again next year. So that means you may have a perpetual problem if they do not provide us long-term immunity. As for example, you take polio vaccine once and you are set. We don't know that thing for COVID yet. So that's another problem.
So the
And the
flu
fact
shots we
that you
get
need,
are for different strains of flu every year?
Yeah, for flu you have different strains, so you have flu shots every year, different ones. And here we don't know whether, assuming it is the same coronavirus going to be next year also, even assuming that, we don't know whether the vaccine that is going to be given now will provide sustained immunity for a year or more.
Aren't there like 20 variations of the CV19? You know, they keep finding different.
Yeah, there are thousands of mutations at the moment, but the important one, the vaccines that have been created are mostly, or all of them, are created against one particular arm of the virus, and that has not changed substantially. That will not change substantially. And as long as that doesn't change substantially, expectation is that you get vaccinated now, you should have permanent immunity. But we have no data to prove that. So that's the problem.
isn't AstraZeneca going at a different point that is more general?
So I couldn't hear what you said.
Isn't the AstraZeneca vaccine, the one that they just gave the results for recently,
Yeah.
wasn't that going after a different part of the virus?
No, it's going against the same, but the technology is different, slightly different. And there are others. There are others, because the Moderna vaccine and the
Pfizer?
And the Pfizer vaccine both use the RNA to inoculate, and then the RNA is actually coated with fat in a particular way so that it can get into the body, into the cells. In contrast, you have AstraZeneca vaccine that is actually taken up in a virus that is normally infectious for a chimpanzee, but that virus has been altered so that will not in fact cause infection in the humans. So that's why that is different. And also that's a DNA vaccine. So it's kind of different technology, different starting point, but end game is still the same.
Okay.
And then there are a lot more companies trying to do the conventional thing where they take the protein itself and inject that. So we don't have all the data yet. So you gotta wait. So, but that's why I mean, at this time, I'm hoping by the time the FDA reviews the data, I mean, it's not one-page data FDA committee has to review. There will be truckloads of data that have to be really reviewed completely and thoroughly, hopefully, that will allow them to make a decision. Is this really safe? Is it effective? And is it doing the job that they claim it does? So all that data has to be reviewed. So that's why it should take time. If it does not take that much time, I think I would be worried. But I'm sure, because there are independent committees that review the data and at every point.
Haven't they, when they submit the data, isn't it, aren't there pieces of data that are missing from it? You know, it's not a complete set. When
No,
either one of those companies submitted it, it wasn't a complete set.
I don't know that, but they are usually the FDA requires a certain set of data to be submitted according to the way the trials have been set up, because trials are set up in consultation with FDA, and then there is a data monitoring committees are set up that monitor the data independent of the company. So that's going to be, there are check points set up so that company is not involved in analyzing the data all along. And then that's why interim data come out, but they're not published. They have not been published yet. Normally, in the normal clinical trials, the data get reviewed, the data get published, so that more number of scientists can look at the data and point out what is wrong. This time we don't have all that happening because it's going warp speed.
Yeah. I don't know. I heard on the news that one of them is 95% effective, but they didn't submit all of the data that shows that it's 95%.
Well, what I have seen is what is called preliminary data, and that's what it's not published yet, but the company releases preliminary or interim data analysis, and they don't release all the data. They just release the conclusions based on that. And so you have no way of actually looking at actual data and then looking at well, is the p-value, well, of course they show you it is significant and all that, but unless you really look at the real data, you can't independently say anything. That's why FDA panel, which is delegated to look at the data, the committee is made up of independent scientists. Their job is to look at it impartially and then come up with their own opinion.
Yeah. Oh well.
The other thing to look at is that England has accepted the Pfizer vaccine.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sure there's some pressure on the U.S. to do the same.
Again, in England also, it is actually it has been approved under the emergency protocol. That's all. So pending further analysis. So it's kind of interesting world we are living in right now.
Let us hope that that it works. An interesting question. We were talking on Wednesday about whether you would take the exam, take the inoculation.
Yeah.
Paul, how do you feel?
I'm not convinced yet to take it or not to take it.
Two months ago, I would not have taken it. I'm
Yeah.
beginning to be a little bit more willing to take a shot.
Yeah.
I think in part because.
Fortunately for me, fortunately for me, I'm not in that group that is scheduled to get it at the beginning. So I don't work in a in a hospital or anything like that. So and I'm not an essential public service worker. So there's no chance that I would even be on the list. So
you will be in January, though.
Probably not.
I don't think in January.
But no. I think probably we will come into be in line maybe in late February or March.
Really?
Yes.
Because 80 is people who are 80 and older are in the group right now.
No, but the thing is, you have to have enough vaccine available. And
true.
So if the vaccine, what I have heard is Massachusetts is going to get 300,000 doses. That means 150,000 people. So
right.
Out of 150,000 people, you need to provide it to healthcare workers, and then to nursing homes. Then how many are the older people are going to be left out? I don't know. And then you go into January already.
Okay, so, you guys can wrap it up. You're going to be off the air in a couple seconds.
Okay.
And then it's ethnicity also is a big factor.
Yes.
Blacks versus Hispanics versus whites.
Yes. But the thing is, the immediate problem is you have to provide it to the frontline workers.
Yes.
So frontline workers are people who are in the clinic. Frontline workers are who work in the emergency people.